Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Candy and this is Stuff and Budget. Today we are going to be setting up my 2026 budgeting binder. Let's get into it. All right, you guys, so we are going to be setting up our 2026 budget binder. Can you believe it's already going to be 2026 and it is already time to set up and plan and get ready for next year? I think it is so crazy. I feel like this year just flew by. But you know what? Here we are. And I always feel like once this time of year comes, it just goes so fast. So I'm going to try and get this filmed and up for you guys. I think last year I didn't get it up until January, but you know what? Here we are. We are in November. We are getting prepped and ready, and I am super excited. So I used to plan my budget in a classic happy planner, but I moved to a big one because I just did not like having to cut out the different size paper and all that stuff. So I am using a big happy planner, and I do like the system where you can take in and out the pages if you need to. So I kind of buy this I try to find a discounted binder because I do kind of take out all the guts and make it my own. So I'm going to do that with you guys today, and let's just get into it. So I just liked this really plain black and like beige cover, and I just think it's really cute. So let's go ahead and open up this planner. I love getting planners that are not too busy inside, just kind of very minimal. So this planner really worked for me. And if you guys are familiar with Happy Planner, I think most of you guys are. I used to be like a happy planner person. I used to do decorative planning, and then I switched into decorative journaling for a while. But for me, it took a lot of time because I would literally sit there for like an hour deciding on how to decorate the pages, and it just became too much for me to do once I had all the babies. And so I kind of stopped that, but I have tons of stickers, tons of all that stuff. It is in storage, but I just don't really have time to make my planner all nice and pretty with stickers and stuff like that. I wish I did. But anyhow, this is our big happy planner, and when you turn the page, you have this kind of like year at a glance that you have 2026 and 2027. Here is where I put my sheet of recurring bills. So I use this sheet, and I just noticed when I was looking at it is I have my van tags here, but I don't have my Camry tags. So I will have to add that in later. But this is my 2026. I like to have this recurring bills sheet in here because when I budget, I don't take out the money for my regular bills that get paid every month. I do budget for them, but I leave that money in the bank because I don't feel like there's a reason for me to take it out and then put it back in. So I just keep track of that digitally. But this is like my monthly expense sheet. I did cover up the amounts just for a little bit of privacy, but I have my mortgage that's due on the 1st, my Verizon, which is my cell phone bill, due on the 7th. I have my life insurance that's due on the 7th, my gas, which is like my natural gas bill for the home, that is going to be done on or taken out on the 14th. Aptiv is my pest control service, which gets taken out on the 16th. Water is my water bill for the home, and that gets taken out on the 21st. And then State Farm is my car insurance, and that gets taken out on the 29th. Now for all these bills that I just showed you, here is like January, February, March, April, and so on. Those things get taken out every single month. So all of those have X's on every single month. When we get to my trash, that's taken out on the 10th. That comes out every other month, which is why the X's are on every other month. And this is just so that when I'm doing my budget for the month, which we'll get into in a little bit, that way I know for February, I need to mark off trash. For April, I need to put trash, stuff like that. And then these three categories right here are my long-term sinking funds. So my Canva payment comes out in September. My Google Photos comes out in December, and that's only $30, but I still like to make sure that that's funded so I don't worry about that. And then my van tags come out in December as well. My Camry tags, I feel like those are in October, and so I do need to fix this and add that in there because I don't want to forget that. But this sheet, I just love having that in my binder, and I usually put this right in here so I can make sure that I reference that when I'm doing my budget for the month. Now on the back of this page, I do go ahead and I bought this from a shop. I have it linked in my description because a lot of you guys asked me about this, but I saw that her shop is on a break, even her digital items. And the last shop update from her shop was last year, I think in November, so a year ago. But I'm sure you guys can find this somewhere, but this is just kind of like a sinking funds tracker. And for me, I know that a lot of people have their high yield savings account with Ally, and I think Ally allows you to have buckets of different things. I have my high yield savings account with Synchrony Bank, and I went with Synchrony at the time because their interest rate was higher, so I went with that. But this is how I keep track of like my buckets. So when I add money into, let's say my Camry tags, this will say Camry tags. It'll say what my goal is, what the due date is, and then I will keep track here of when I'm adding money into my high yield savings, and I keep track of the balances this way. So these are like my little buckets because I don't have the digital bucket with Ally. But I'm just gonna pop this in here. And what I do, since these pages are facing back to back, this is my recurring bills page that I just showed you guys. And then my sinking funds page. What I'll do is I'll glue these together to form one page. So I just take a glue stick. I used to have one of those tape, double-sided tape little thingies, but I ran out of the adhesive in there. So I am just going to use my glue stick, and it works just as well. So let me flip this over to the other side and do it because I am right-handed, plus the spine is in the way. So we are just going to pull this up, and then I just take my glue stick and just, you know, very like randomly spread the love of the glue. All right, let's push this down, and then we will have a one-page deal here. So that is what I do there. So when you open up the binder now, you will see 2026. Here is my recurring bills, which is cool because that faces the calendar, so I can kind of see if I need to reference. And then on the other side of this is the sinking funds page. And then I do use two. I think I'm gonna have three next year. So what I'm gonna do is take this one, and if you do this, just be mindful of where you guys are punching the holes so it matches the way that the pages need to go. So I'm going to glue these guys together here, and then we will pop this in the binder. All right, so I am all willy-nilly. I am all willy-nilly with that. It's okay. All right, let me just kind of line those up because I didn't keep them together properly. All right, there we go. Let's put those together now, and then we will snap these in just like that. And then there we go. So we have our double sinking funds page there. And then on this side, we have another sinking funds and then our 2027. If I need to add any miscellaneous pages, I would probably do it here because I don't want to paste over important things like this. So that is the front of my binder. Then when we turn the page, we have our month at a glance, or I don't know what you call this page, but I use this to track my finished savings challenges. I just think it's a fun way to utilize these pages. And I used to try and do it on the date that I finished them, but now I just use the numbers just to kind of number the savings challenges that I've done. So let me show you an example if you haven't seen my one for this year. So this is what this year's looks like. And then on the bottom, I just put the total. So I go ahead and write what, you know, just it doesn't have to be exactly the name of the challenge, but what challenge I finished and how much it was. So like for January, really quick, I can see I completed 12 challenges for a total of $11.57. For March, I finished 24 challenges for a total of $12.69, so on and so forth. So that is January through June, and then I did mine through October. We are currently working on November. I know I don't do it like at the time. Usually what I do is I just have all of my finished challenges in a box, and when it is time to film my reallocation video, I'll just get them all out and then list them down there just like that. And then I put the totals on the bottom. So I just think this is a fun way to utilize this page. All right, so that is my explanation of that. And then we get to the front of the months. So again, I like these dashboards or these whatever, I think they're called dashboards, just because they're very plain and aesthetic, and I like them like that. So here is January. What I do for this kind of like coming up month overview, I guess this is what it is. Right here it says priorities, important, and then notes. I use this page to budget out all of my games and savings challenges that I'm going to play for the month. But I don't use my January income. I use my December income. And the income that I'm talking about is from Etsy and YouTube. So what I'll do here is write like YouTube, how much I made for December, and then Etsy, how much I made in December. And then I'll total it out here. I'll minus like the taxes. I usually do 10%. I haven't done a whole year of only Etsy and YouTube income because I did work. I worked up until I think April or May of this year, and then I was laid off from my 9 to 5 job. So I think my taxes are going to be a little interesting come time to file, but we'll see how it goes. And then down here, I'll write like mini Mondays, how many mini Mondays I'm budgeting for, and I usually play with $50. And then the total, and then I'll just go down the list as far as like my game time, what I'm trying to save for my Roth IRA, stuff like that. And that just all comes out of my Etsy and YouTube income. That way, January is funded by December, February will be funded by January, so on and so forth. We'll see how it goes. Luckily, I've been able to fund all of that with those two incomes. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things just go as they are or maybe even better. But I have you guys to thank for that. So thank you so much if you watch my videos, purchase from my Etsy shop. It just really, really means a lot to me. Like you guys will not know how much, but that is what I do for this page. And then the next page that shows is our monthly calendar. And I just love how big this is. I am a big writer. I'm not a small writer, so I need big spaces, which is also why I like the big happy planner as well. But what I will do here is I use different color pens for my different pay periods. This January 2026, my pay periods are going to be 2, 16, and 30, or the 2nd, the 16th, and the 30th. So for example, what I would do, I'm going to just grab my month at a glance or my recurring bills sheet so we can just reference it, just so I can show you guys my process. All right, so here is my recurring bills sheet, and let's see. Okay, you guys, just a little backstory about me and how I budget. So I only budget my paycheck. My husband does work and he has his own paycheck, but when we got together a little bit later in life, and we already had our financial stuff kind of already going for us. And so if we meshed everything together, I think it would kind of make everything a little bit confusing. He has investments and different things going on with his paychecks that he does, and so he has all of that already figured out, and I kind of have all my stuff already figured out. Not that I have a bunch of stuff, but it's just worked for us that way because, again, like I said, we got together a little bit later in life when our finances were kind of already set to what they should be. So with that said, I do pay like some bills. I do pay like a portion of the mortgage. He takes care of most of it. He pays for like the electric bill. I do the water and the gas and the pest control. Just we have our way of doing things, and it works for us. So sometimes, like I will budget for like groceries, but if we go grocery shopping, sometimes, he'll pay for the groceries or he'll put gas in my car, or it's just stuff like that, which is like a bonus for me because then I get to kind of have that as rollover money. But it's just, that's the process that works for us. And so the way that I do my budget is let me write this like in purple maybe because you guys can see it a little bit better. So what I would do is, so my mortgage comes out on the 1st, and that, since it is the 1st is on a Thursday right before my pay period or my paycheck, this would come out from the previous like paycheck. And when I say paycheck, I do pay myself. I did get like a severance from work, and whatever I had at that time, I put into a separate bank account. And then when I should have gotten paid, that is when I pay myself. So luckily I have been able to just pay myself the same thing that I was making at my old job. And so things are still kind of like the same. Now, when I do run out of the cushion that I have there, hopefully I'll be able to keep adding into that. So hopefully I won't run out of that. But right now, this is what it is. So if you guys are wondering, like, I thought you got laid off, why do you say a paycheck? It's because I'm paying myself. I didn't just put all that money into the bank and be like, yay, I have all this money. I opened up a separate account and put it in there because I just wanted to act like I still was on the same budget. And that is just what worked for me. It might not work for you. And again, this whole thing is just what works for me. All right, so what I would do is we are going to write in a different color since that is coming from a different paycheck, my mortgage. And what I do, because this is a pretty big one here, is I will write, well, on the first, I'm going to put a check mark because it's going to be paid. So I will just write mortgage, and then I will fill in the amount later. And then we are going to be getting paid, like I said, on the second. So I will do that in purple. And then the next one will be in this aqua color. And then I will go back to pink again. So just for color purposes so that you guys can see, that is what I do. So on the second now, what I usually do with my mortgage is every other paycheck. This month is gonna look a little bit different because I get paid 3 times this month. So what I would do, since this mortgage payment came out of my previous paycheck, the next one I would put half and then write mortgage, and then I would do half, because I like to split big items like that. Like say I paid $3,000, I would budget $1,500 from this paycheck, $1,500 from the next one, instead of having like a whole $3,000 come out of like one paycheck, if that makes sense. That's just what works for me. And then Verizon and life insurance both come out on the 7th. So in the same purple pen, because we are still under this pay cycle, I will do my Verizon, and then I'll write life insurance. And then next is our gas bill, which comes out on the 14th, which is here. So it's still within this pay cycle. So I'm going to write gas. And I do have a big gas credit right now. So I am just going to write in parentheses credit so that I know to kind of keep an eye on that. All right, Aptiv is going to come out on the 16th, which is our pest control. Now the 16th is a new pay cycle, so I will grab that color marker and I will write in Aptiv. And I do write the amounts in here. I'm just not going to do it right now because I'm just showing you my process. All right, our water bill comes out on the 21st, so I'm going to write water. And what I started doing with that as well, because my water bill has been pretty hefty, you guys, I am going to put a check mark here because that's when it is due. But in the previous pay cycle, I'm going to go ahead and do half water. That way I know to kind of budget, you know, at least $100 or $200 in both of those, so that way a whole chunk is not coming out of one paycheck. All right, and then I do the same thing with my State Farm. My State Farm is my car insurance. That comes out on the 29th, so we are still within this blue cycle. So it comes out, so I'm gonna put a check mark there for State Farm. But I'm also gonna put it in the previous pay cycle. So I'm gonna put half State Farm. And the amounts that I have under here does reflect half. So when I am budgeting, like I know to do half and half. All right, now we are on to, I'll get paid again on the 30th. And then the 30th will go into February, and then I'll just kind of continue that. So I do try and fill all this out like maybe 1 or 2 months in advance. I don't like to go too forward in case anything changes, but that is kind of like how I do my budgeting. How funny, because I didn't have to write anything on this side. But yeah, so I do that, and it's just what works for me, and I like to do that. Okay, so that is like my monthly view. And then after my monthly view comes like in the Happy Planner, this is like a dashboard layout, I think it is. But what I'll do is I'll take out all of these pages because I don't need them except for this other February like dashboard. So I will leave that in there, and I will take out all these guts. And then the sheets that I use is I made this monthly expense tracker just in Excel, I think it is. And I will just put that down on this side and I will glue these papers together so they stick together because there's no need for me to have that page. Like I don't utilize that page. So this will be its own page. And let's go ahead and do that together, just so you guys can see what my process is. Maybe you guys don't care to see me gluing things because this is not arts and craft time, but I will just put that down, put it together, and we are good. So that is that page. And then we are gonna be, this is gonna be the back side of this page. But on this side, what I do is I have this budget sheet. So this is my bi-weekly budget. I get paid obviously bi-weekly, so I will put this in here. And of course I'm gonna be using more than one of these, but for this first one, this is gonna get glued down to that page. So it just makes one cohesive page there, just like that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I used to try and be perfect, but you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect anymore. And there we go. So this is kind of like my little sheet of my expenses. I will write my pay date here. So let's just fill this one out really quick. So for January, my pay date, and I don't do this in erasable pen. Here I do because I might have to move things around. Hopefully I don't mess up here, but I just like to write in a bold gel pen because it just pops. So like my pay date here, I will put January 2nd. And then my budget period will be January 2nd through the day before I get paid next time. So it'll be through January 15th, which is a Thursday. So I will put 1/2 through 1/15. And that way I know when I'm writing my expenses, I can just glance over and know to look for those dates to write my expenses here. Now to explain my monthly expense tracker, you guys may ask why I need this if I am supposedly cash budgeting. So what I do is I leave all the money in the bank for my bills, but I do pull out money to cash stuff my envelopes. So I have like my wallet, which is here, and I'll just show you guys my wallet really quick. So I do have like my groceries, my gas, my eating out, and my buffer. This is just like my, you know, what I need all the time. And then I do have other binders for other sinking funds and stuff like that, my long-term, short-term, those types of things. But I do cash stuff my envelopes, and I pay mostly with a credit card. You guys might say, why do you do that? It's because for me, like I don't have any credit card debt. Woohoo, I don't have any debt. So what I like to do is I've become very good at whatever I charge, I pay off. And I don't feel like I can just swipe my card and I'm good. Like I am very mindful of what I'm doing. So for me, I go to the grocery store, I use my card. I will buy a birthday present, I'll use my card. I'll go eat out, I'll use my card. But I will write all of that down here. So I will write like, let's just say Chick-fil-A, category is eating out, amount $20. So when it starts to get to the end of the period, or sometimes I'll do this like, you know, a week here, a week there, I will pull out that cash from my envelope and put it in a back to the bank envelope or little zipper pouch that I have, and I will take that money back to the bank. What I've been doing since I have been budgeting for a while is usually what I pull out of here to put back to the bank, I'll recycle that money. So when I have to budget for my next pay period, whatever money I need to stuff in those envelopes, I'll take it from that cash and put it back in those envelopes. That way I'm not having to go to the bank all the time. Of course, there's some times where I am under, so I do take that money and put it in the bank, or I'm over, so I need to go to the bank and pull out money. But that is just what works for me. I try to recycle money so I'm not having to make so many trips to the bank. So my monthly expense tracker, that is what I do. I track all my credit card transactions or my debit card transactions. I try not to use my debit card too much unless I have to. And again, the reason why I use my credit card is because I do earn cashback rewards. So for me, why not use my credit card and earn money rather than just using my debit card and not earning any money. Now, I know that doesn't work for everybody, but that is just what works for me. So we do get incentives like when we put gas on our credit card, or when we shop at the grocery store, or if we use, it for travel expenses or anything like that. I just try to earn money as much as I can, and why not take advantage of that? Because I know they take advantage of so many people with their ridiculous interest rates, right? So I am getting them back for all of us, you guys. So let's see. So for our weekly budget, we go ahead and write down our little cycle period here, and then I will put down what my income is. And then I do have my sons, Nathan and Gage, because I have on my cell phone bill, they have their phones on there as well. And they've just never asked to have their own bill or anything like that. I think we get a discount anyways. So when that Verizon bill is due, they have me on auto pay, so they just send me money every month for their portion of the bill. That's why I have them there. So when it is the pay period for them to pay me, I do put that in there to budget that as well. All right, so that is what that top portion is. And then here I have my bills. So this should match what I have on here, which I'm seeing it. The only different thing here is this Bliss car wash. And this was a nice car wash place over here by my mom's house. And it was just so convenient and all that stuff. But I am canceling that because rainy season is here. I don't have to wash my car as much. Plus, hopefully we're going to be moving, so I'm not going to need that. So that's what that Bliss car wash is, if you guys are wondering. So I'm going to be removing that. And then here are the categories that were just in my wallet that I showed you: my groceries, gas, eating out, and buffer. So if I budget for those things, I usually do like 200 a week for groceries, 100 for gas, and then eating out, that varies. So I put like 100 in there, and then I have a buffer in case I go over in any of those categories. And I am not too strict with myself on my budget, you guys. When I first started budgeting, it was like mind racking to me about like, what if I put money in here, but I don't need that much money, or I need more money or whatever. And it's like really not that serious. The important part is that you're stuffing envelopes and you are budgeting for something. If I have to take money out of my eating out to fund my groceries, that's totally fine. At least I have money in an envelope, right? Like I budgeted for something. In my mind, I just say, hey, I didn't do it in the right order or in the right ways. So for me, I don't stress too much about if I need to take money out of another envelope. What matters to me is that I have money in my envelopes. So again, if I have to borrow money from another envelope, that's totally fine, and it is okay with me. So, and then down here, we have like our primary savings. So if I'm going to add any extra money into our savings account, I put it there. Emergency money, challenges and games. I don't really use that because I budget the other way, like I showed you guys with my Etsy and my YouTube, not really with this money. And then my month ahead does come out of my paychecks. So my month ahead is only $30, but that is what this category is here. And then my sinking funds are all listed here. So I have like my long-term down here and then my short-term up here. And this just helps me, like say I had $500 left over from all this stuff, then I just go ahead and use this to budget out what I need. I will get out my binder and then budget that way and see like what I have in there and what I think I'm going to need coming up. And that's how I allocate my money for my paychecks. So I will do that here. Not everything always gets something every month, but this just helps me to see like the categories that I have. And then these are my long-term sinking funds. So I just make sure that they are getting something every month until they are fully funded. And I do, when I play my mini Mondays, I do allocate certain challenges for like life insurance or my Christmas binder or like my self-care or whatever. But usually starting at the beginning of the year, I'll have more of these long-term sinking funds for my mini Mondays. But since I had a lot of these already fully funded, that I just put fun stuff into my mini Mondays, if that makes sense. All right, so that is this side here. Let me just put this under here. And then when we turn the page, we are back to our February dashboard. And so I just continue this process throughout the binder, and that is how I budget. So let's go ahead and flip back. And if I need, like for my next pay cycle on the 16th, I'll just grab another sheet and just put it right on top of here. And so within our little January tab is my budget sheets and my monthly expense trackers. Like if I use all this up, I'll just put another sheet right on top. And that's just what works for me, you guys. Like I said, I'm not like a financial person or anything like that, but I just wanted to share with you guys my process. And sometimes it's funny because if I get paid, like say I would have gotten paid on the 23rd, sometimes I don't know where to put my little budget sheet. Should I put it, you know, with January or February because it's like a split month, but that's just my weirdo mind thinking about stuff like that. But let's put our little sheet back in here. And this is why I like this system, because when I need to reference sheets, I can just pull them out. Or sometimes if I'm writing on this side and this is in the way because I'm right-handed, I just pull the sheet out and I'm able to just write over here. So that is how I set up my budget binder. And I just think it's really simple. And again, that's just what works for me. I am going to do another video on all the binders that I'm going to be using and showing you guys all of my stuff. I need to make myself some new envelopes because my other envelopes are falling apart. And yeah, when I get all that together, as far as like what games I'm planning on playing for the new year to help me fund certain things, I will definitely make a video about that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys got some ideas or it inspired you a little bit to how to set up your binders. But I know a lot of people use like the Happy Planner system and they kind of piece together or hodgepodge their own thing that works for them. So you guys do that. Use what works for you guys, and if it works, stick with it. I had tried the Clever Fox planner system, which I think it was a great book to use and to utilize if that's what fits your needs, but unfortunately it didn't fit my needs, and I just love this system so much, so I did come back to it. So if you guys watch any of my past videos, I did do like a setup of the Clever Fox binder, but I ended up coming back to the Happy Planner. So anyways, like I said, thank you guys so much for clicking and watching this video. I hope it helped you in some way, but you know what? We all got to get started for 2026, and I'm going to put it out there. 2026 is going to be awesome for all of us. We are going to save a ton of money, get our debts paid down, and just be set to go for the new year. All right, you guys, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.